Okay, welcome.
Here we are.
Why not us? Why not? Why not us?
Why not us?
Mike McGowan, Carter Kramer,
Yep.
this guy.
Yeah,
We're still here.
we are. I've got the spring training.
I know, man. I feel like
I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go. Went to a game last night with
Yes,
the
you
girls.
did. Yeah,
and
a couple guys I know.
Our very good friend Blake Keating, who is an
Yeah.
avid listener of the podcast.
He is an avid listener.
Hooked me
Yep.
up with a few tickets. We watched the
Smart man.
Cubs walk it off against the Brewers in spring training. It was great.
Yeah, night game too, which is awesome.
Front nine Barker was there.
Yes,
right?
yeah,
With his
front
family.
nine, yeah. We got to play golf with those guys a
Yeah.
couple days ago. It was fun. We
Yes,
had a
we
great
did.
time.
Yeah.
So I know I can just tell by your look how excited you are to start talking
I
about
want
this.
to talk about this. Yeah.
So, dude, you brought this up to me, and I think a lot of people know that some stuff is happening with this, but I think this is going to be really eye-opening for a lot of people to truly hear about some of the things you were able to kind of uncover in this discussion and in this research. And honestly, dude, it's scary,
It's really scary.
like really scary.
It's really scary. So
Explain a little bit about what we're going to talk about today.
yeah, so basically, in essence, what's been happening, and there was a press release from the Judiciary Committee in January, and it was just a quick press release, and basically, the federal government has gone to banking institutions, and they've asked them to flag certain transactions, right?
Yep.
And certain transactions and social media keywords, right? And then put those two things together,
Yes.
right? So some of the keywords were
Not just social media, but search engine keywords, right?
Correct.
I mean, somebody hops on Google and searches whatever, right? So
Yeah.
anyway, just to clarify that, but go ahead.
Yep. So basically, what they've done is they've conducted what the subcommittee calls broad and unjustified surveillance of Americans' private financial data through financial institutions, while suggesting banks use the information from anti-conservative organizations lists of hate symbols to determine potential threats of persons of interest.
Yeah, couple keys in there. Anti-conservative.
Correct.
Right.
So where this all started, so if you go back in time, right, and you look at 9/11 and then the Patriot Act and all this stuff where there was a ton of government surveillance.
Yes.
And part of it could be warranted because they're saying, look, these 19 people,
Yeah.
right, were in this country legally. They were
Yes.
taking flight lessons. They were doing all these things. But there was now we found a ton of chatter back and forth.
Yes.
Over whether it be social media or it just be search terms or these these chat rooms, things like that.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
So that they were surveilling all of that to figure out if there's going to be another 9/11 type attack. Right.
Yep.
And then, a lot of people, Rand Paul was probably the most vocal about, we have to stop this. We're past this point now and we're surveilling Americans, and that's not. And I'll tell you,
Right.
so, and I think everybody knows this, the CIA is not allowed to surveil or spy on American citizens unless there's a legitimate threat.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
And it's verified.
Right.
Right. So even I, when I was in the Marine Corps and in the counterintelligence field, we were not, if we were overseas, we're in Turkey or we're in Haiti or wherever we were,
Right.
we were not, if there was an American, we couldn't use that person as a source. We couldn't surveil them. We couldn't watch. We couldn't do any of that. Right. It's against the regulated. It's against
Yeah,
the law.
unless again you have evidence that there's a potential threat.
Right.
Not potential. There has to be a threat.
A
That's kind of the way.
it has to be verified.
Right.
So what's been happening? So then now fast forward so many years, right? And January 6th happens. So what they've done is they used January 6th, and what they were doing was they were matching financial transactions with social media posts and search terms,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And they were trying to figure out who all of the January 6th people were. It was this massive effort to go after everybody who was at the Capitol on January 6th.
Yeah. Little
Right.
witch hunt.
It was a huge witch hunt,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So there were, they flagged terms like MAGA, Trump. They were looking for financial transaction at Cabela's, Dick's Sporting Goods, or purchased religious texts like the Bible. So if you purchased the Bible, you were flagged.
Yeah.
So you're a Catholic, let's just say, and you want to and you have a kid who's coming up on their first communion in the first grade or whatever that is, if I remember my time frame, right? Right. So if my parents wanted to buy me a Bible, they'd be flagged.
That's crazy, man.
It's insane.
And obviously those other the sporting goods stores you discussed, I mean, obviously those are people that sell guns, ammunition, right? I mean, that's got to be where a lot of that comes from. But also, those are conservative individuals, right? I think that's the first layer that's creating is like verifying these are conservative people. That, would you agree?
So listen to this. So it wasn't just MAGA or Trump. I mean, there was a bunch: White Power, Antifa, Proud B, Storm, Capital, Threepers, Civil War, Last Sons, Kill, Shoot, Gun, Death, Murder, Biden, Kamala, Pelosi, Schumer, Pence. Right. So all of these terms were flagged.
Yeah.
And then transactions. I mentioned Cabela's, and I mentioned what else? Dick's Sporting Goods. There were a bunch more. Right. So Barclays, U.S. Bank, Charles Schwab, HSBC, Bank of America, PayPal, many others were filtering transactions, and they targeted terms like, or they targeted stores like Cabela's, Bass Pro Shops, Dick's Sporting Goods, some I can't find but some bookstores that are conservative or Christian leaning, right?
Yeah,
like a whole bunch of this stuff. And they did it under the Treasury Department's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, or FinCEN, in the FBI. So back channel discussions to gather Americans' private financial information. So if you just went and so
crazy, man.
And the thought process was, if you're searching terms like MAGA or Trump, right, or Capital, or any of these other,
or White Power,
right? If you're looking at any of those, and then you went to a Bass Pro Shop.
Yeah,
because you ran out of fishing lures.
Yeah.
Right. You would have been deemed potentially a domestic violent extremist.
Wow, seems aggressive.
And if you were in the Washington area in January of 2021.
Yes. Do you know what makes me a little bit nuts about this? Like, one of the things I think is wild. Think about the riots, the race riots that occurred after like the George Floyd situation. Yep. There were so many people, I mean, terrorizing their own cities across the country.
Yep.
And nothing happened.
Yeah.
Nothing happened.
Well, because
we're watching live TV of people throwing bricks through windows at police stations in the Twin Cities. You know what I mean?
In the Twin Cities,
Crazy. I mean, crazy, right? Did this same level of surveillance occur to try to figure out who those people were, so they could try to?
That'd be racist.
I mean, this is crazy, bro.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I think the point's been made. It's, but yeah, and yeah.
I want to read this.
It's crazy, man.
So, in addition, the committee and select subcommittee have obtained documents showing that FinCEN distributed slides prepared by a financial institution explaining how other financial institutions can use MCC codes to detect consumers whose transactions may reflect potential active shooters and who may include dangerous international terrorists, domestic terrorists, homegrown violent extremists, lone wolves. And so, for example, and this is, I'm going to get you going on this one.
Yeah.
So the slides instruct financial institutions to query for transactions using certain MCC codes such as 3484, small arms.
Yep.
Or 5091, sporting and recreational goods and supplies.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Crazy, dude.
So forget the Second Amendment of the Constitution.
Yeah.
If you bought a weapon, right? If you bought a pistol, right?
Yeah.
If you buy a little .22,
yeah,
right? Because you want to go shoot squirrels,
right?
I don't know, right? But like, you're gonna get flagged, and you could potentially be a lone wolf, a homegrown violent extremist.
Well, yeah, where does it end, Mike? And this is the other part too. How many of these people, if you truly look at an active shooter situation or mass shooting situation or any of these things that have occurred, how many of those people legally walk into a Cabela's or a Bass Pro Shops or a whatever to buy a small arms firearm?
Mm-hmm. All of them.
How many?
Yeah.
I don't think any of them do.
My
point is that I think
that
these people do not fit into someone who can walk in with a permit, fill out a bunch of paperwork, legally obtain a firearm through a sporting goods store that has to follow, proper protocol to fill out paperwork. And I don't know, man.
So in other words, what you're saying is people that do it and they walk in and they buy a small pistol,
right?
They buy a firearm.
Yeah.
Right, they're doing it the right. So basically,
okay. Let me back up.
They're doing it the right way because they have a certain, because they have a certain right to do so, and they think they're not. But
they want to target you as a lone wolf and a potential active shooter for buying a small arm. So, dude, let's think about this, okay?
Yep.
Do you buy small arms to go out on the offensive, or is that a self-defense situation?
Most of the time, it's self-defense.
You're buying a weapon with maximum 30 rounds or less, and that's if you get a police issue weapon. Maybe you're talking 20 some rounds in a small arm, right?
Yep.
How much damage can you do offensively with the purchase of a handgun?
Not much.
In a mass shooting, let's say.
Not much.
And most people can't hit shit with a handgun outside of about 10 yards.
Right.
Right? Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
They're looking at the wrong people, bro.
They are.
And they're doing it on purpose. This is targeted.
Yes.
This is a prejudice as clear and concise as it can be.
You mentioned the riots, right?
Yeah.
The race riots. But I mean, look at Chicago today with all of the violence.
No, it's awful.
Right?
Yeah.
And I mean, are those kids, those teenagers who have,
right,
Mac 10s,
yeah,
are they obtaining those weapons legally?
Yeah, are they strolling into Bass Pro Shops and filling out some paperwork
for an Uzi, right?
I mean, that's what I'm saying, bro.
It's
targeted and misdirected, and again, it's like, look, this is the hard part. The hard part is, this is a perfect example of why we have to be careful about giving up certain freedoms, right? Mm-hmm. Because they get a hold, the wrong people get a hold of these things that have an agenda, and they can use these things once it's okay. They can use it for whatever they want.
Right.
And the scary thing to me, Mike, is that someone could just make the claim, well, Mike's a lone wolf.
Yeah. Because he bought a Bible.
He bought a Bible.
He bought a 40 caliber Glock.
And he was searching the Dave Chappelle episode about white power.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Seriously, I mean,
I'm with you. I'm with you.
That was somewhat of a joke, but that was a hilarious episode. But remember when the guy's head exploded and the thing comes anyway. So look, man. I mean, that's really what I'm saying. And then once these claims are made, or once you've been attached or tagged with this, what then?
Yeah. Yeah.
What then?
No, you're on a list.
You're a target.
Yeah, and the report even states this surveillance not predicated on specific evidence of criminal conduct, targeted terms and transactions related to core political and religious expressions that are protected by the Constitution.
Right.
So the DOJ,
holy buckets,
the DOJ in conjunction with the Treasury, in conjunction with the FBI, just completely disregarded the Constitution, overstepped it, and did what they said was in the best interest of the country.
Yeah.
Sure
it was.
I mean, that's everything. Everything we always talk about is everybody's trying to do it they think they're doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But the right reasons today just seem to be far too skewed toward a political ideology. Right.
Right.
It's insane. The
idea, Mike, that if you are, let's say, deemed or considered a conservative in the country, in the world we live in today, you're the enemy.
Yeah.
You're the enemy. And it's like, I think we got to be careful, Mike, about going down this path, because again, and I want people to understand this from both sides, because this could easily go the other direction, right? We open up this door, right? It could easily go it's whoever's in power in that moment has the ability to create this. Hey, if somebody searches this, buys this, and does this, they're on a list.
They're on a list. Yeah.
Even if it's completely benign and there's no criminal activity.
Yeah.
Right.
But
hey, we should keep an eye on those.
But
people.
We're not going to charge you if you do this, that, and this because you were disenfranchised as a toddler.
Yes, that's right. And we're talking about banking information, right?
Correct.
So we're talking about relationships between these groups and financial institutions. Now all of a sudden they can see how much money's in your bank account, how much money is in your savings account, how much money are you in. And again, to me, that's scary as hell, especially given the financial instability of our federal government. What's to say that they don't go after really rich conservative guys and go, well, you know what? Let's just seize their, hey, this guy's got, 130,000 in his checking account. Let's just seize his bank account.
Well, remember when Russia first invaded Ukraine?
Yes.
And we went after all of the oligarchs?
Yep.
And we were seizing yachts and doing all that shit?
Yeah.
Of private citizens who had connections to?
Yeah.
Where do you get that right?
Yeah. I don't know. We probably did the same thing we did with the border wall materials. We probably sold those things for like pennies on the dollar to like friends of politicians. And
Probably.
You know what I mean?
Probably
that was
did.
probably just an insult. They probably didn't make any money off that deal. They probably just wanted to look cool for their buddies.
Yeah, it's insane. So do you know what this is like? It's like, remember the movie Minority Report? You ever see that movie? With Tom Cruise?
So I don't watch movies. I told you. I'm terrible about that.
So I guess they were like these savants or whatever, and they were like in this weird liquid, but they could see the future. And so the Minority Report was, Tom Cruise was a cop, and he would stop crimes before they happened.
No, I do remember this.
He would stop crimes before they happened, and then he felt, and then they thought he was going to commit a crime, so then they were chasing him, and that was the whole thing.
Yeah,
right?
yes.
But that's this come true.
It is.
Right? You've got
Holy
people
cow,
who think
it
they're
is,
savants saying that, this guy, because he bought this and because he searched that and because he posted that, that he's going to...
He's a conservative that, fits this...
and again, all those different terms and all the different places they went shopping. Like, it also was Home Depot.
I'd be getting a list of like, pawn shops in, Oakland.
Right.
Right. We're going after.
And by the way, who pays with a credit card or a debit card at a pawn shop?
Yeah, nobody.
Nobody. Because when you stick up a gas station, what do you take? Cash.
That's right.
Then you go to the pawn. I mean, I'm just guessing.
It's kind of funny.
I'm just guessing.
But same thing, man. Honestly, like, criminal activity is done in a way that is obviously made to be difficult to trace. I mean, again, this to me is a targeted and prejudiced push to be able to look into our private information without our consent and without us knowing either.
Correct.
And for what purpose? Because we're the enemy, because we're the potential threat.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I kind of fit into some of this, right? It's like I could for sure, not that I'm like searching weird stuff, because I not really.
I wouldn't.
I usually just read your notes. I don't search a whole lot of anything, but no, man. But again, it's like I don't know. I think it's interesting to me that those are the people that are targeted in this particular.
So it's really funny that also this reporting comes out of Congress.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, you didn't have the New York Times, or you didn't have the Wall Street Journal, or you didn't have a bunch of publications or media outlets talking about this until it came out of the House of Representatives.
Right.
And the select subcommittee and all that kind of good stuff, and the Judiciary Committee, what have you.
Right.
The report also details the existence of a web portal that's run by the Domestic Security Alliance Council, DSAC. Anyway, a public...
I've never heard of DSAC before.
Anyway, so a public-private partnership led
Isn't that
by
what you do when you castrate your dog?
DSAC them.
Sorry, I had to. I got a giggle out of Jimmy on that one. Good.
Yep. A public-private partnership led by the FBI's Office of Private Sector and the Department of Homeland Security's Office of Intelligence and Analysis. So you've got, I mean, if you just go back to this, you've got the Treasury Department, FinCEN, you've got the FBI, you've got the Office of Private Sector, the Department of Homeland Securities, the Domestic Security Alliance Council, DSAC. You've got, how many bureaucrats are working on this thing?
Well, here's what I like, dude. It says the shared intelligence products with financial institution that were used to identify individuals who fit the profile of a criminal and domestic violent extremist.
Often because of their conservative political views or other constitutionally protected activity.
Yes. I mean, Mike, holy buckets.
And sweeping searches of individuals not suspected of committing any crimes without a warrant in order to identify individuals making certain suspicious transactions.
Yeah.
A suspicious transaction? What?
Yeah, which is, how do you quantify that?
How do you define it?
Right.
Like,
could be anything.
Could be anything.
So,
but if you go to a freaking adult store and you purchase a whole bunch of shit to rape a little kid, that's probably just fine.
Yeah, yeah. No, I go and buy like a first aid kit to like put in my, my UTV and
And
I'm flagged.
you're flagged because you must hunt and fish, so therefore you're conservative, so
conservative.
therefore you're a domestic extremist.
I'm trying to figure
how
out
they get from dot to dot to dot to dot to dot is just amazing to me. And it's political ideology,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
like
where does this level of fear come from? Like, is it that
is
there's-
it a level of fear, or is it a level of I need to maintain control? So this is how I do. So
it's a way to create fear for one, right?
Right.
And to but again, I don't believe that domestic violent extremists fit into this.
no, they don't.
Do they?
No, I don't think so.
I'm trying to think of one example. I mean, I don't know. Maybe like
Timothy McVeigh?
Yeah, Ted Kaczynski.
Something
maybe,
like that, right?
Right.
Few and far between. But they'll hold those people up as the
But dude, those guys
look at
did.
this.
But those guys also, to my knowledge, I don't think Ted Kaczynski. I mean, he lived out in the fucking mountains, dude. He was
Yeah.
he was in the middle of nowhere. He wasn't strolling into Cabela's to snatch up some
Yeah.
ammo, right?
Yeah,
Like,
no,
was he? I mean,
no.
I don't think he was.
He wasn't going
was
to Home
off the grid.
He wasn't going to Home Depot to get his materials to make bombs,
That's what I
right? Like it's
I just-
ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah, and I do know, like, obviously being an Iowa man, I do know that there are there are hoops that you have to jump through. Just like, and in some of these cases, man, I believe in that process where, to obtain certain items or certain products or certain chemicals or certain drugs, there should be some level of what do you call it? There should be a process to go through there to make sure that the wrong people aren't, I
Yeah.
mean, again,
Yeah.
we're talking about things like, I mean, let's use Adderall as an example or something along those lines, right? Not everybody can, it would be catastrophic, right? If just you could just free flow that stuff through, I mean, our kid, whatever, right?
Right.
Same with like some of these fertilizers that farmers use,
Yeah.
and some of that stuff is used to make meth or some of it's used to make bombs, right? Like, you have to have, certain credentials to be able to purchase those things and go through a process. I don't think that's the worst possible thing.
I don't think it is either.
But I think when they start to watch all of your activity, just because you are a conservative individual living in the United States that shops at a sporting goods store
Yeah.
or Home Depot,
Yep.
well, how the hell do we get from there to there?
Well, because what they do is it's just like 9/11, man. They use 9/11 to initiate the Patriot Act,
Right.
To surveil, right? Because they were looking for X, Y, and Z,
Right.
right?
Right.
So now, all they need is an event, right?
Yeah.
They just need an event every time, and I hate the fact that this happens, but every time there's a school shooting,
Yeah.
right? What do you hear? We have to outlaw fire. We have to outlaw assault weapons.
Yep.
And assault weapons are never used in these school shootings. By the way,
Yeah, well, that's also a very loose term in itself.
it very much is. But if you look at the definition, assault weapons are not used,
yeah,
right? By and large, right?
I would agree. Yeah.
So but you've got this rhetoric that comes out, right? We have to ban this. We have to ban, magazines that hold X amount of ammunition,
Right.
Right. The whole bump stock thing from a few years back.
Oh yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah, suppressors.
Right. I mean, like it's
How many times are suppressors used in a mass shooting? It's like, you think those guys are trying to be quiet?
no.
The funny thing is, suppressors don't even. I mean, that's not like the movies. People think like, oh, people can sneak around and just.
No, you can't. No.
That's not really what it sounds like.
No,
if
it
you've ever you shot a gun with,
With a suppressor on it, yeah.
it's not real. And again, man, I think that's part of this too. A lot of this fear that's created is not real. I don't understand, Mike. Again, can we not find better ways to actually try to prevent some of these crazy fucking people? Because let's face it, if you're involved in a mass shooting, if you are creating or involved in some sort of terrorist level activity, you are mentally unstable.
Yes.
You have a mental health issue of some sort. You think that you can,
If you think shooting
some
a third,
point.
if you think shooting a third grader,
yeah,
is
makes
like-
you some, yeah.
makes a point or makes some kind of a statement about you or how you were
You're a
harmed or
sick
whatever, you're a
fuck,
sick
dude.
fuck. Yeah,
You're
exactly.
a sick bastard.
Exactly.
And again, I've said this a lot of times. Like, we're looking at people's, criminal history, maybe, domestic violence, things of that nature. What about their mental health state?
Yep.
What if how, I don't know. I think that it's interesting to me that people complain all the time about this gun control situation, but nobody's talking about the mental health issues because of other things in our society. Things like that, you know, are a big topic in the news right now, like TikTok.
Yeah.
Right.
Or the United Kingdom banning puberty blockers.
Right.
Without clinical diagnosis.
Right.
Right. But we just give them away willy-nilly here.
Absolutely.
Right.
You don't think that has an effect on your
Of course it does.
Yes.
And the British government did that after rigorous studies
Yes.
of kids that were taking puberty blockers. And what actually happened to them, where over a third of them had mental disorders and were like suicidal, and it didn't help, not even close.
No.
Right? To
Nope.
what they were looking for, what they were driving toward.
Hoping to achieve.
Hoping for, maybe, right?
Right. Yeah. Yep.
So-
that's it, man. That's the part that bugs me, right? It's like, when are we going to start talking about that? When are we going to understand that, you know? And it goes back to, we were talking about just the, okay. So we talk about, you know, this being targeted as, you know, active shooters and mass shootings. Let's talk about your example earlier about Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How many people are shot there every day?
A lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
How many in the biggest mass shooting?
But the murder rate is down.
Well, yeah.
Just FYI,
right?
just
Yeah.
across America, if you listen to Joe Biden in this is the State of the Union, the murder rate across the country is down, and statistically it is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But everything else, property theft, car theft, robbery, larceny, I mean, that stuff's way up. But
the crazy part to me, the point I'm trying to make is it worse to have, you know, someone who goes off the handle and makes an attempt to have some, you know, to create a mass shooting, where in a lot of cases there's, you know, there are multiple people that are killed?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it worse to have somebody going out and shooting one person every single day? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, the cumulative is I think greater in these people that are able to commit individual crimes consistently
Yeah.
and often.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. It does. So what you're saying is
And they're both fucked up.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There's not.
Yeah.
I'm not
Agreed.
saying. Hey,
Agreed.
mass
So
shootings are good.
It's two things, right? And it's two things because I draw it to this, right? On the one hand, you're talking about a mass shooter,
Yeah.
and there's definitely a mental health crisis
Absolutely.
in this country. And why do we steer away from it? Why won't we label somebody as mentally ill? Because that hurts their feelings, or it's disrespectful.
Yeah.
I mean, there's this whole conversation about you can't say illegal immigrant anymore. It's like it's taboo, right?
Yeah.
Or illegal
Yeah.
alien, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the president said it in the State of the Union. He called, you know, Laken Riley's killer an illegal immigrant, and he caught shit for that. And then he says, and then he apologized and said, I
Yeah.
should have used a different word because I don't want to disrespect anybody.
Right.
You don't want to disrespect the guy that killed an American citizen.
Yeah.
Right? So the mental health crisis, let me bring this back.
Yeah.
The mental health crisis and why it's gotten so, I think, out of hand, because people are afraid to diagnose and or call it what it is and then treat it.
Yeah.
Because if you're different, if you've got a mental illness, you're somehow different or misunderstood, and there has to be a better way, pharmaceuticals typically,
Right.
that treat you and make you better. Right.
Right.
So that's one side of things. Right. So what you're saying is, would you rather have? So if we reinstate some mental health facilities and we treat people for mental illness like they should be,
Right.
Right. You're saying that these mass shootings will decrease. I agree with that.
It's not just that either, though, Mike. Go ahead and finish your point, because you're now making me think about something else. But go ahead.
Your second point is: would you rather have that, or would you rather have someone who shoots to someone every day?
I don't think that's my point.
A gang member.
My point
in
is:
Chicago.
is one better than the other? Is the mass shooting thing? These people that this surveillance is targeting, is it helping in the grand scheme of victims?
No, it's not.
No, it's not helping at all.
No, and that's what I'm saying, because
Yes.
because it doesn't address the issue.
Yes.
It's looking for somebody over a political ideology.
Yes.
Just to say that you're doing more.
Yes.
Just to put a paragraph on the back of a playbill that
Right.
makes yourself feel better.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So, the second piece of your point was you've got gangs who obtain
Yes.
firearms illegally, and they're shooting people every week.
Yes.
Maybe not every day, but every single week, and
Yes.
lives are changed every single
Correct.
week. But that's not given the kind of attention.
Now, what else? Let me. This goes exactly into what I was going to say.
Yep.
This is an article that I have sitting in front of me, okay? And a mass shooting in Chicago is considered 4 people injured, okay? 4 or more people are injured. In 6 years, there was 1,000 victims, okay? 126 people killed. Guess how many convictions there were for those 1,000 victims and 126 people that were murdered?
Less than 5%.
2.
2?
There were 2 convictions. So what happens to those people, bro? They go right back out on the street and they do it again.
Yeah.
So it's the mental health piece on the front end. That's the proactive piece. But then when these criminals have a violent crime, dude, they have to be prosecuted and they have to have punishment.
Let's go there. So
right, we can't have these guys right back out on the street. That's where.
So you've got progressive.
That
DAs,
was the point I wanted to make. Right?
And I can get there too, right? So you've got these progressive DAs, no bail reform, all that kind of stuff, right? So these people, if they do get arrested, they're let go anyway.
That's the whole thing I'm saying, bro.
They're let go anyway. So it's funny that a lot of these people, right, who call for assault weapon bans, and you've got these people who say we need to surveil, conservative Christians who are buying Bibles, right? I just painted a really broad stroke, but we need to surveil them because they could be domestic violent extremists, right? Are the same people, by the way, who wanted to defund the police a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
They're the same exact people. So what do you get when you defund the police? You get a lot more crime.
Right.
You get a lot more instability. Right. And then what? What do you have to do when you have? So what did Governor Kathy Hochul, what did she do in the New York subways recently? Do you remember this?
Yeah. Wasn't it something about? Yeah, go ahead.
She called in the National Guard.
Yes.
So she activated like 300 National Guardsmen.
Yeah.
I think 300 is the number. It might have been more. But 300 National Guardsmen to be in the subways, right? On the front side of the turnstiles. And what were they doing? They were checking bags. So you got a guy like me, let's just say, I'm going into work, right? I'm hopping on the 7 train or whatever, right? And I'm going to work, right? And I've got my briefcase or I've got my shoulder bag that has my laptop. It has a binder with some, my notebook, right? It has some pens and pencils. It has my cell phone, whatever, right? Right. So they're checking bags, right?
Yeah.
Does the guy that pushes someone on a subway track, is he carrying a bag?
Nope.
Is the guy the guy that got Daniel Penny, the whole thing, who was dancing and threatening people inside the train car?
Yeah.
Was he carrying a bag?
Yeah. Do you have a briefcase?
No. So they're looking at the wrong people.
Right.
Right.
That's the whole point of what we're talking about, dude.
But also, right?
The wrong tree, man.
So defund the police, bail reform creates chaos. It creates a stability issue where the governor has to call in the National Guard. So guess what you have now? You went from defund the police and bail reform and progressive DAs to now a police state.
Yeah.
Where you control and you police the population by checking bags of good people who are just going to work every day, and you're still not addressing the criminal.
That's right.
That's what's happening. Defund the police, take away the ramifications of doing the consequences of doing something wrong. Right. And then when it gets to such a point, and maybe because it's an election year, I don't know, right? But now crack down with a police state. Right. And guess what happens? That pendulum keeps swinging. Right. And it'll swing back to defund the police, and it'll swing back to we need more control. It'll swing back to defund the police. It'll swing back to we need more control until ultimately we live in a police state full time. Right. That's a huge conspiracy theory. I just went almost off the deep end. No, listen to this. But it's true.
We were talking about this, and we've talked about, again, how the politicized, pandemic situation, there was a lot of stuff that happened in that time frame of the 2020 election. Right. In that election year. Okay. Let me just keep going down this path of this Chicago situation. Okay. The number of fatalities in these shootings that I was just talking about, it was declining. Right. It went from 28 in 2017 to 16 people killed in 2018 to 12 in 2019, which is very low. And 3 of those people were charged. So what is that? 20%.
25%.
Right?
Yeah.
25%. Sorry. 2020, it jumps from 12 fatalities to 25. Okay. 5 people charged. Mm-hmm. That's your 20% number, right? Yep. In 2021, 24 fatalities, so almost the same number. Guess how many charged?
3.
1. One.
Okay.
One person was charged. I'm not talking about convicted.
Right. He's not charged.
I'm saying charged.
okay.
Think about that, bro. So, again, people have to understand, I think, as it's great, dude. It's great that we're trying to come up. But again, if we're trying to proactively stop violent crimes and active shooter situations, get these guys that have already shot people off the street.
Yep. And let the police do
Right.
let the police do their job, and then have a
Christmas,
have a DA that backs them up.
Absolutely. And you know what I think would be interesting? I think it'd be interesting to talk to some police officers and ask them if they believe that conservative consumers that shop at Dick's Sporting Goods are their largest threat. I don't think they would agree. I think if anything, they would say, hey, we're thankful that we have.
I know a guy who has a brother-in-law who's a trooper out of the Chicago area.
Right.
We should get him as a guest.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We should.
Just made me think of that. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway.
So dude,
we're getting close on time, maybe.
But I so if you're a politician,
right,
and you want to maintain control, and this has been played out throughout history, and this is one of the problems with today's world is we don't pay attention to history. So guess what? When we don't pay attention to history, we're bound to repeat it.
Absolutely. Right.
And how many dynasties or empires or whatever, institutions, governments, whatever, throughout the centuries, you destabilize so that you ultimately have to come back to a place where you control, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Defund the police, progressive DAs, bail reform, no accountability, destabilize, and then call in the National Guard to check bags in the subway.
Yeah.
To condition you to get you ready for the police state that's coming so that you, as the politician, the leader, the person in charge, maintains that control.
It's crazy stuff, man.
It's not too far afoot to say that is not what's going on. Now, I don't know that it is or not, but damn it, sure.
But, dude,
but the stars line up, dude.
You mentioned the movie, right? What was the movie called?
Minority Report.
Minority Report. Mike, I mean, everybody, this is what I think is interesting, right? And we saw this with that whole defund police push.
Yeah.
It's a great idea to be progressive and push these things until all of a sudden it's not.
Yeah.
Until all of a sudden you're the guy on the list.
That's
or
right.
You're the one that's caught in the wrong
That's right.
side of the situation, right?
Yep.
Then it's like, that's going to continue to happen, right? I mean, we've got to be able to stop looking and digging in the wrong places. And the fact that we're spending this time and money and energy and effort for these people to have this collusion to work together to try to dig into certain people to find out who may have been around the White House on January 6th.
Yeah.
And we have guys that are shooting people and walking away and doing it week after week and month after month in some of these large cities in the country and other places, right? It's unfortunately not just large cities anymore. Obviously, that's the most common place that this occurs. But, I mean, when are we going to try to stop these people ruling their own, they're running their own...
And not to mention all of these mass shootings and all of these tragedies that happen, and they're tragedies.
They are.
But how
100%
often,
agree.
how much transparency actually exists after the fact?
Oh yeah, none.
You don't hear about it anymore. It just the next one happens.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the Las Vegas shooter.
Yeah.
Right? Like what do we actually know about that person in that incident?
Yeah.
Not a whole hell of a lot.
Nope.
Right? The Nashville shooter.
Right.
The manifesto. Did we ever see it? Right? They don't release the information afterward because it's too damning to them.
Well, I think too, man, it's a situation where I think that there's an attempt there not to,
produce new ones.
Well, yeah, I think not to create they don't want to give these people attention that they're seeking.
I can see that.
Right. By doing these heinous crimes.
Yeah.
But again, you're also correct. I think that when the story is damning to somebody's, position or agenda or claims that they've made or the positions that they've taken, then we really don't hear about it. It really gets swept under the rug quickly. And what's the rhetoric? It's gun control.
We have to
we got to get rid of guns because guns are the problem.
If the true story goes against any particular controlling narrative.
Yeah,
it never comes out.
Absolutely.
All right.
That was really wild, dude.
So anyway, the government is watching our transactions. Just FYI.
And scary as hell, and not maybe looking in some of the places they should.
They should be correct.
Yeah.
So it's Why Not Us 1776 on YouTube. It's whynotUspod.org. And it's Why Not Us in all caps on Spotify. We're also on Apple as well.
Yes.
So it's good time. I mean, it deserves more time. And I'm going to try to get this guest who's a trooper in that area. And we'll have to keep it confidential, I think, his name and things like that.
I would agree, yes.
But I think I can get this guy and have him talk about it because I've heard a couple stories myself in the neighborhood.
Yes.
When he's come to visit, my buddy who's a neighbor, I've heard a couple stories.
I can only imagine. I can only imagine. Well, thanks everybody for listening.
Yes, indeed.
Check us out again in another week.
Yeah.
Every Friday.
Here we go. And our shorts are every day. And some of them are hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool. Thanks, man.
All right.
Thank you all.